Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Kel, and as you can see, I'm excited because today's video we are going to be revisiting one of my favorite corners when it comes to the comic book universe. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite teams, my favorite aspect and thing about comic books. We are going to be talking about the X-Men. We are going to be recruiting another team of X-Men. But don't get it twisted. This isn't going to be like a redundant team. Because I've already made teams of X-Men. I made, two different X-Force teams. I made an X-Men team for the future. I made a Hellions type team. But there's a few more teams I could do until it gets redundant or gets to the point where there's too many X-Men teams. But the team we're going to be making today is specifically going to be tied to and dedicated to X-Men 97 Season 2. Why? Well, because if you've seen X-Men 97 Season 1, which if you haven't, I highly recommend you do because the show was awesome, you would know that the X-Men 97 team we have seen, they are gone. The way they ended up defeating their enemy Bastion, it worked, but it ended up sending them across time. So now there's no Team X-Men. And while there are like four, maybe three original members of that team still in the present era, there is no actual team of X-Men to carry on the dream or no team of X-Men who will protect humanity. So one of the final teasers we had at the end of the episode was we saw Forge, and he had a board of people, like a board with pictures and stuff of people trying to figure out like who was gone, who was missing, who was AWOL, and possible candidates to replace the new X-Men team. And then Bishop came in and he was like, well, we're going to save the X-Men. So in order to save the X-Men while still also holding up the dream, we got to make a new team. So we're going to make our predictions, or we're going to form a team who we think could possibly be on the new team of X-Men for X-Men 97 Season 2. Now, in order for this to work, what you'll see is that a lot of characters that he put on the board and Forge and Bishop themselves, we cannot use because we have already used. So we're going to look at the members that he has on the board that we didn't use, and we're going to pick and choose and see why they might be a possible candidate, why they may not be, pick members. And I'm also, this video is about, underutilized characters and characters alike. So we're going to use those characters first, characters that are on the board and that I like first, and then to fill out the rest of the team, we're going to think about the characters that I don't like, but who are most likely going to pop up. So, yeah. So, with that being said, there's two things we got to do before we start recruiting. The first one is go over the rules. And the second thing is we got to talk about where the current X-Men are. And we have to talk about who was on the board to begin with. So, in order to keep this flowing smoothly, I just say we should go in order. And that means we are going to start with the rules. Now, for all of those who know, or for those who may be new to the channel, like I said just a few minutes ago, when it comes to recruitment season is a segment I started on my channel where I take members who I highly enjoy and love and know well, or members who I have some interest in and don't know that much about, and I put them on the team. This is a way for us to put characters that we want to see more of, characters that we love and favor, characters that we would say, hey, they will work better here or they work better there, and do our own thing with them. This is a chance for us to be the writer, the planner, and the editor for once. Because there's a lot of characters that, we love that get underutilized or looked over and stuff. So that's exactly what recruitment season is about. Now, when it comes to the rules of recruitment season, there's a few rules that we have for every recruitment season video. And usually the rules are the same, but depending on the type of team we're putting together, they can vary. In regards to this team, the rules are pretty much the same, which is the member count is we only need 5 to 7 members. And yes, I know when you say 5 to 7, that means you can have 6. 6 seems like a weird number to me. We're not going to get into all of that. So we're either going to do at least 5 or we're going to do 7. It can't be no less than 5, but no more than 7. And we're not going to stop at 6. So it's going to be either 5 or 7 members. 2, each team, no, not necessary. Each team can have a support staff of 2 to 3 members. You know, support staff being the team coordinator, the healer, the advisor, the planner, the fixer, the trainer, whatever the case may be. But it's not mandatory, it's not necessary to always have them like it is for your main number count. So that's 1. And 2, the third rule is any member that we already used or any member that we will use now, we cannot use again. Which means any member that we have pulled for this team, no matter if they're known for being on more than one team in the comics and stuff, we can't use again. This gives us a chance to expand our horizons, give other characters a chance, and learn more about characters and stuff like that. Because think about it, we all have characters we prefer and that we would go to, but if we use the same characters for each team and not give other characters a chance, one, that would defeat the purpose of why there's so many characters in comics and fiction. 2, it would seem kind of boring. It would seem kind of redundant to be making these scenes that we know we're going to use the same characters over and over and over again. So we cannot pull them from more than one team. So no matter who we pull, we got to remember who we use so we can't use them again in any other recruitment season, whether it be a recruitment season I do by myself or that I do with a person I may have on my channel like Andre or Austin or any other guest I may have on my channel. So with that being said, those are 3 rules. Now, when it comes to the rules, like I said, we can't use people we have already used. And like I said, you will see that as we go through this team and the board and the members that were on the board, there are going to be a lot of members who are on the board, who are on the original team that got lost in time, that we can't use anyway. For instance, Forge and Bishop seem to be putting the team together. We can't use Forge or Bishop. Even though this is the team concept and they're the ones putting it, we're going to act like it's their team, but we're not going to actually put them on the team. Because Bishop, I used in one of my X-Force teams, and so did Forge. Forge was the weapon and tech designer for one of my X-Men teams. So we can't use them either. So those are the 2 members who are already out. But before we go into the members who are on the board, let's look at the members that were already on the original X-Men team. On the original X-Men team for X-Men 97, we saw Jean Grey, we had Cyclops, we had Magneto, Professor Xavier, Sunspot, Jubilee, Wolverine, Storm, Bishop, Forge, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Gambit, Beast, Morph, and Cable, right? Okay, so we already talked about Forge and Bishop. Can't use them. Now, Wolverine, he's out of the picture. 1, because he got his adamantium ripped out. And if you know anything about the comics, I can guarantee you he's going to be solo dolo for a while, or he's going to become a horseman of apocalypse. So he's already out. Plus, we already used him. So Wolverine's out. And we don't even know where he is right now. He was on the ship, but he got scattered through time, but we don't know where through time and space he is. Same thing for Morph. Morph, he wasn't out of commission, but he was the one watching over Wolverine, and we don't know where he is. So Morph, even though he's a possibility because I didn't use him, we don't know where he is. So we're not even going to consider him. Who else? Scott and Jean. Jean and Scott are in the future. Y'all know me. If y'all seen my Jean Grey video, I can't stand Jean, so I wasn't going to use her anyway. I have plans to use her clone. Her clone was much better. I don't know why. I prefer her clone and her family members over Jean. Actually, I do know why, but we're not getting into all that. So we're not using Jean. And while I can and want to use Cyclops, again, we can't use him here because he's in the future somewhere. So we kind of have to save him. So we can't use him. Beast, I have mixed complicated feelings about Beast. I want to use him, but at the same time I don't, and I don't know where to put him. But we can't use him on this team anyway because he is in the future. And while he's in the future, he's also in the future with Magneto and Xavier, who I want to use both of them, but I can't use them for this team because they're in the future. He's also with Nightcrawler and Rogue, two members who I already used and love, so we can't use them. Um, is Storm with them? I don't even know where Storm is. I think Storm's with them. I'm not sure. No, I don't even think Storm's with them. I think Storm's MIA. Storm was on the ship, but we don't know exactly where she ended up. Even if we did, I can't use Storm either because I already used Storm in one of my other teams. And then that leaves Cable, Sunspot, and Jubilee. I okay, Cable. It says that Cable was AWOL. My best guess is he got pulled back to the future, or he willingly went to the future in order to save Jean and Scott, or he's searching through time, whether it be the past for the X-Men or the future or whatever. So we're not going to use Cable. Plus, I already used Cable. Now, when it comes to Jubilee and Sunspot, I don't like Jubilee. I don't know why. I don't like Jubilee. Everybody's like, Jubilee's cool, Jubilee's this, Jubilee's that. From what I've read on Jubilee and the few issues I've read about Generation X, I just started reading Generation X. She just seems to have a whole bunch of attitude. No, nothing really special about her. And in the show, she just seems there. I don't really get what her thing is. And Sunspot, he's okay to me. I mean, from what I've seen him in the New Mutants movie and X-Men Evolution, he's decent, but it doesn't even seem like he wants to be a mutant in X-Men 97. And he was always hiding most of the time. I don't really have that many feelings about Sunspot, and the few things I've read with him in it, I just don't want to use Sunspot. So those two members, they're not a yes, but they're not a no. They might be the two members we need to fill out the rest of the team because they were left on Earth, but instead they went AWOL. Most likely they're hiding or they decide to quit or something. Who knows? So those are possibilities. But that is who we can and cannot use as opposed to the regular X-Men 97 team. Now, in regards to who was on the board had those members, like I said, they had members that we just discussed, and it was stating like where they MIA, where they dead, where they AWOL, or whatever the case may be. But we also see they had other members listed. And the members they had listed were Magic, aka Ileana Rasputin, her brother Colossus, Peter Rasputin, Alex Summers, aka Havoc, who is Scott's brother, Exodus, Emma Frost, Dust, and Shadowcat. Oh, and they also had Iceman. Now, when it comes to those characters, let's break each of these characters down. I could see them using Magic because Magic was in the original X-Men animated series. While she wasn't Magic yet, Ileana was there, and we saw a whole bunch of cameos like Morph turning into Magic in X-Men 97. But we can't use her because I already pulled her for another team. Exodus. Exodus is more of an acolyte. He's more against humans than, saving them and defending them. Even though he's on the quiet council of Krakoa. If you want to look at the show's timing and where they are and the comics they've been referencing, I don't see Exodus being up there. I don't. And I do want to use Exodus, but I don't think he will fit for this team. Shadowcat, aka Kitty Pryde, I can see her being used on this team because everybody says she's the 90s version of Jubilee. And I can see her being pulled up here, and she's a famous X-Men. She's one of people's top 5, top 10 favorite X-Men characters. However, we can't use her because I already used her, and another X-Men team already did. And that leaves Dust, Emma Frost, Colossus, and Iceman. Now, Emma Frost, I I could see that happening, but here's the thing about that. In the original X-Men the Animated Series episodes before X-Men 97 released, Emma really didn't have any major appearances or roles. The only time I think we really even saw her was during the Dark Phoenix saga, where she was clearly stated as an enemy of the X-Men. You know, she captured the X-Men, she tortured Jean Grey's mind and all of that. So she's clearly an enemy of the X-Men. In X-Men 97, we see her on the Council of Genosha, and she's still, you know, her little snarky, bitchy self. But at the same time, when Genosha exploded and they went to go search for people, she was there in her diamond form. Now, if you know anything about the comics, once she hits her diamond form and Genosha is attacked, that's around the time she starts to join the X-Men. So seeing that how she got her diamond form and stuff, and Genosha was destroyed, I could see them starting to go into that area and era for the X-Men. So it's a possibility for her to be on the team, especially as a teacher or a leader, because she ends up becoming a leader and like a head mistress of not only the Xavier Academy but the Massachusetts Academy. But we can't use her because I already used her on a different team. Dust, Dust is a possibility. I don't remember seeing Dust like a live cameo in Genosha or anything, but she was on the board. Dust is a character I really do like. I've always been interested in characters who's, you know, they have really high religious beliefs against like their ethics and morals and violence and stuff. So I do want to use Dust, and I just never knew exactly where to put her. And Dust is another mutant who popped up around the Genosha being destroyed era. So we could say Dust is going to be a member of the team. So we're going to pull Dust as a first member. Now for Colossus, Colossus around this time, Colossus ends up being on the team, not during the Genosha era, but like right after the Genosha era, he becomes alive again. But I can see him being on the team because he made a lot of major appearances within the original X-Men animated series. And he was always, you know, saying that he'll be an ally to the X-Men. He just never joined because he had to live with his sister. Well, seeing that it's years later and his sister seems older, according to the cameos and stuff we made, I could see him joining. And while Colossus isn't like a top favorite X-Men of mine, he's not an X-Men I hate or can't stand like Jean or Jubilee or whatever. So we could say Colossus is going to be here too. I could see him helping because he was always a helpful person of mankind and human and mutant kind. He loved Xavier's dream. He made great friends and allies with the X-Men. So I could say Colossus will be on this team as well. So Colossus will be our second member. Iceman. When it came to Iceman, Iceman was okay. So as far as Iceman go, there's a few reasons I can see him being on the team, and I think we're gonna pull him on the team. Maybe I don't know, but let's break it down. Iceman, we all know Iceman was a part of the original X-Men's first class team. And the reason I bring that up is because that picture of the first class with, you know, him, Beast before he was blue and hairy, Professor Xavier, Archangel before he was Archangel, he was just Warren, Scott, and Jean. That picture was shown 1,000 times. Like there was any episode that we seen where they was in the mansion, no matter what was going on in the mansion, that photo will appear. So I guarantee you that was a tease for somebody of the original X-Men team to be, or most of the X-Men original team to pop up somehow. It seems that we know that Jean and Scott are already MIA along with Beast and Xavier. The only two original X-Men members left are Warren, aka Angel, who is now Archangel, and Bobby Drake, aka Iceman. Now, when it comes to Warren, aka Archangel, one, we can't use him because I already used him for another team. And even if we could use him in the original X-Men the animated series, while he appears, it doesn't seem like he had any original ties to the X-Men. It doesn't seem like he had any ties at all. It seemed like they made it seem like he was a brand new mutant, or a mutant who was always hiding until boom, he met Apocalypse. And even so, he seemed so unhinged that he just wanted to, get Apocalypse. He wasn't worried about joining a team or saving mankind or whatever. So we could say Warren's out. Now, when it came to Iceman, he seemed to be a rebel. It seemed like he cared about Xavier's dream. It seemed like he only left for Lorna. But as an original X-Men and a favorite and a Omega level mutant, I could see him being on the team. And even though he wasn't a person who followed Xavier through and through, like he wasn't a dedicated student like the rest, I could see him popping up simply due to the fact that they saved him in season 3, season 4, and he could feel like he owes them a debt, or he could still feel like, Xavier was the only guy who had faith in me. Xavier was the only guy who was like a father to me. Sure, I'll go join him. And while he isn't one of my favorite mutants, I like how he was portrayed in the original series. And I like how he's portrayed in most TV series and the movies we've seen, but it's the comic versions I just never could get with. So that's pretty much my same problem with Beast too, but that's another story for another day. So I could say Iceman is most likely going to be on the team, but I'm not going to lock him in until we go over the rest of the people on the team. Now, the last person, well, he's not the last person to be on the board, but he's the last person we're going to consider that was on the board, and that is Alex Summers, aka Havoc. Now, if anybody, I could say Havoc's probably going to be on this team for a few reasons outside of him just being Scott's brother. One, we already saw him in the original X-Men animated series. And while he didn't know or seem to know that he was Scott's brother and Scott didn't know the same, we could say that somehow between Xavier's files or Forge working with the government, he finds out, he'd be like, hey, you're Scott's brother, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 that. Let's go save him. Or he can be like, hey, you were a part of my team. Because he was part of Forge's original X Factor team. So he could be like, I need your help again, and have it be like, all right, cool, I'm in. Plus, he was like the second leader in command after Forge. And another reason I could say we see him is because a lot of people are assuming that X-Men 97 is a series based on the Summers family. And if that's true, yay, because in X-Men 97, we see Cable and we see Sinister, we got Jean, Madeline. One of the teases at the end of the season was the Ascani clan, which we all know dates back to Rachel Gray. But at the same time, I say we see him because Corsair was a big part of the original series, especially when it comes to the Dark Phoenix saga. And we saw teases of Vulcan in X-Men 97. So I could definitely see Havoc making an appearance in one way or another. And Havoc is another character who I have not used, that I have wanted to use, just didn't know where to put him. So we're going to put Havoc on the team. He's definitely going to be a lock-in. So far we have 3 members. And the first member for our leader, like I said, we're not going to count Ford or Bishop, even though we're acting like it's him making the team. But our pseudo leader will be Havoc. And then we also have Colossus and Dust on the team. Now, there was 2 other members on the board, I believe. And the 2 other members on the board was Wanda Maximoff and Pietro Maximoff, a.k.a. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who me and many fans still consider Magneto's children. At least we think that's how it is in X-Men 97. And even if it's not, that's how we consider it in our hand canon, because that whole thing about them being the evolutionaries kidnapped subjects is dumb, it's stupid, whatever. No. But it says that they were off-world, so they're not even in play. But the fact that they're being considered gives me an idea of what direction season 2 might be going in. And here's what I mean by that. While it is true that Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch have ties to the old first class X-Men comics by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, they were tied directly to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. But they're mostly known for being tied to the modern day era of comics earlier in the 2000s, like the mid 2000s, 2008, towards going forward era. And it started with when Scarlet Witch, started going crazy after losing her kids and eventually disassembled. Then we get to House of M, and she wiped out half the mutants. So that era takes place right after the whole Genosha being destroyed era. And through the Scarlet Witch decimation era in House of M, we get to go to the reload era of the mutant side of the comics. And the reload era basically introduces how there's only like 198 mutants and stuff like that, and we start looking towards, finding ways to restore mutant powers and everything. Now, while that's more modern story, like I said, X-Men 97 seems to be pulling from different eras of comics. And the most recent one, like, while they're still stuck on, like, old stories, like Operation Zero Tolerance, they do seem to be taking elements from certain modern day era stories and blend them in. So the fact that we seen Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver mentioned, and the fact that we got reference and connections to the Genosha era type of thing, I could say the next thing they're going to probably pull is probably some type of point from the Reload era or the House of M era, which makes me think the few candidates that I can think of would be like, I don't know, maybe Pixie or Glob Herman, especially seeing that we did see Pixie, Glob Herman. I think we saw Beak and stuff. Those were characters that were introduced within that post Genosha era. So I could see people being pulled from that era. And another reason I say that is because one of the other reasons that I think we're going towards that era is because, as I said, Gambit was in the original team, but I didn't mention Gambit because Gambit died, which was sad, broke my heart. Gambit died, but it was teased that he will be coming back as some type of tie to Apocalypse, most likely a horseman. And if you know anything about the comics, he became the horseman of death in the Reload era. So if that's what we're truly going for, then I could definitely see them taking some concepts or some ideas from the Reload era. So the next person I'm gonna say that we're gonna choose, because of that, and the cameos we saw cameos such as Leech, Callisto, Marrow, but I think all of them died, and Callisto's never been an X-Men. Leech has been, but I don't really care for Leech, and I think he died. Marrow, I've always wanted to see more of in TV shows and stuff, but I already used her. We saw Beak, we saw Dazzler. I don't, I don't think Beak is going to be good on this team, and no one cares about Dazzler. Who cares about Dazzler? No one, for real, for real, for real. But we saw like Glob Herman and Pixie and stuff. No one cares about Glob Herman. But I could say we will use Pixie because Pixie has magic and she can teleport. I don't know if she's a telepath, but it seems that she has powers to teleport and stuff. And she's known to be tied to that post Genosha era. And we saw her as a cameo. I could say we're gonna put her. So she's gonna be the second female on my team. So I'm gonna put Pixie up there. Now, another person I think we're going to see that's related to Forge, not necessarily related to Forge, but who has ties with Forge, it's going to be some other members from his X Factor team. And there's two in particular I'm considering. One is Strong Guy, and the other one is Multiple Man. Why? Because just like with the picture of the first class X-Men, we saw a picture within Forge's house of his X Factor team. And not only that, but when it came to Genosha, we saw a Strong Guy there, in his X Force X Factor team uniform, which is very similar to an X-Men uniform. But I don't really care enough about Strong Guy. I don't really know much about him. And we can see Multiple Man pretty much has the same type of uniform. I think Multiple Man is another good choice. One, because in the Reload era, he has ties to Forge and Bishop. Like, Forge just sends Multiple Man throughout time. Things that he can duplicate himself and have all the knowledge after the duplicate is absorbed or killed or whatever. He sends them through time. So maybe Forge can be sending Multiple Man through time, one in the past, one in the future, one in the present, to scout for the X-Men and all of that good stuff. And there's also some stories and concept where he has ties to Sinister. And I don't think we're done with Sinister yet. So we're also going to lock in Multiple Man. So right now that means we have Havoc, Multiple Man, Colossus, Pixie, and Dust. That's a 5-member team right there. Should we add 2 more? We can add 2 more. I'm going to go ahead and say let's add Iceman, because there was a lot of mentions and talks about Omega level mutants within X-Men 97. And like I said, Iceman is an Omega level mutant. But who else should we add to make it 7? Because I think we should have at least one more Omega level mutant. Seeing that, the original X-Men team had a few. They had Magneto, they had Jean, they had Storm. So who is another Omega level mutant we can add? I don't know. Another Omega level mutant we can add. I don't know. Who's another Omega level mutant? I don't know if there is any. I mean, there are more Omega level mutants, but one that we can add, that's a tough one. Like we saw Psylocke, but I already used Psylocke. I'm trying to think of all the cameos that we've seen. Because while I really, really, really do not want to use Jubilee and Sunspot, I also don't want to take away anybody on the team I already put together. Because like I said, I don't want to just use 6 because that seems weird. But everybody I put on my team, I like and been wanting to use. And I think I have good reasoning and logic behind using them. But who else could I use? I can't think of any more Omega level mutants who would be good for the show right now, or who have cameoed. And other cameos I could think of, like Rachel Gray. We saw her, but I used her. We seen Polaris, but I used her already. Sebastian Shaw, but he's not an X-Men. Even if he was, I think he's dead. Banshee, no one cares about. Who else? I mean, there's Alpha Flight. There we go, Alpha Flight. While Alpha Flight is another group in itself, one of the members who were a part of Alpha Flight were North Star. And I like North Star enough to the point where I don't know that much about him, but I'm willing to use him to learn more about him. And he is an X-Men. He has been an X-Men. He's more of an X-Men than he is a Alpha Flight character. And while he may not be, I don't think he's an Omega level mutant, we could use him. So there, we finally have our 7. So to go over it again, we have Havoc as our leader. North Star is going to be our second command. We have Multiple Man. We have Colossus. We have Iceman, Dust, and we have Pixie. So yeah, guys, those are who I think we'll see or who I would like to see as our new X-Men in season 2 of X-Men 97. Now, as you can see, I decided to release this video on or before, depending on how the day falls, on Martin Luther King Day, because while Martin Luther King, represented and stood for equality and togetherness, the X-Men have always been an allegory and a symbolic representation for the Civil Rights Act. It seems that Martin Luther King was a civil rights leader. I think it fits perfectly. Plus, logically, from everything I've looked up and from how TV shows work, seems that X-Men 97 came out, a year or two ago? It's about time for season 2 to appear. And everything I've looked up says that while there's no specific date, it will pop back up this year. So that's another reason I'm posting it now. But yeah, guys, let me know who you think your team will be. Let me know how you feel about the team I put together. Do you like it? Do you like who it consists of? Do you think it works logically for the reasons I gave you? Why or why not? And if you don't like it, how would you fix the logic behind it? Or who would you replace my members with? Let me know what you think the team will look like. What members do you think we'll see in X-Men 97? How do you think the team will be saved? Where do you think the people who weren't scattered across time are? Like, where do you think what happened to Wolverine? What do you think Storm is up to? What do you think Roberto and Jubilee's up to? What about Storm and Morph and Cable? Heck, for that matter, let me know what kind of cameo you think we'll see in season 2. What kind of enemies do you think we'll have? We already got a tease for one of the Apocalypse Horsemen. What other characters do you think will become Horsemen of Apocalypse? Shoot, if you know the comics, we were teased or hinted at Onslaught. Do you think we'll see Onslaught? Let us know. But until then, you guys know what it is. I'll catch you guys later. Deuces.